It's Two on the Aisle with me, Charles Gross, and Leslie Hoban Blake. Tonight, reviews of Amazing Grace, Cymbeline, Shows for Days, and Prelude. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Two on the Aisle. Good evening. I am, as mentioned, Charles Gross.
And I'm the aforementioned Leslie Hoban Blake. How are you, Charlie?
I'm good. Having a wonderful summer. And you?
I'm doing okay, thank you. Yes, I've got a brand new apartment and
Yes.
and another brand new apartment.
Yeah. If anyone wants to sublease in a very nice apartment with a really big terrace on
Thank you, Charlie.
West
Thank
43rd
you. I have
Street,
to give him a cut now.
yes,
Okay.
Call Leslie.
We're going to open
yes.
tonight, if I may, with Amazing Grace,
Yes.
a historical musical. One of many this season, because we also have Hamilton, a much better historical musical, but that to be continued on that
Hamilton
subject.
is a much better musical than Amazing Grace.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and they're both historical, so
Okay.
that's where that came from. But the important thing about this is that it's written by a retired policeman, and Arthur Giron, who is a playwright of some note, and directed by Gabriel Barr, former actor, and Chris Catelli, a Callaway-winning choreographer. Okay, I'll get that out of the way. And it stars some really intriguing people, because Josh Young, who was Judas in
Superstar?
Superstar, thank you. Oh, God, what would I do without you, Charlie? In Superstar, is playing John Newton, who is a mean, ornery character in the beginning of the play and has an uplifting experience which changes him completely and causes him to write the spiritual Amazing Grace. But what he is a slaver, as is his father a slaver. And his young lady friend, played by Aaron Mackey, his father's played by Tom Hewitt, his young lady friend, in a moment, becomes an abolitionist when he's a young pregnant slave, becomes branded in the street. Okay, there are more characters, there are lots of characters, but basically that's the story. What there are is a lot of slaves who dance and then get put in manacles and put on ships, all of which may be very uncomfortable. I guess that's the PC aspect of it for me. The music is okay. It doesn't hold up to the song of the title, Amazing Grace,
Well,
obviously.
that's a hard act to follow.
It is a hard act to follow, so they keep it to the end, so nobody has to follow it.
Here is my problem with this play. There's no one to root for it, with the exception of Erin McKay. She's the girlfriend. Her character is a songbird, a singer, who has his affections, but also the affections of a local major who's a bit older, and who will do anything he can to get Josh Young's character out of the way. And she does sing like a songbird. I see how everyone could fall in love with her. She has a beautiful voice, and they make very good use of it. But aside from her, there's no one to root for. The son, John Newton, he's a rotten person.
Chuck Cooper plays the manservant, and they don't call him a slave. He's a manservant,
Thomas, kind of a surrogate father to the John Newton character, but he is too small a presence, and he doesn't come out until later in the second act. He really doesn't make an impression. So yes, but he's not there enough for us to really to care. And the problem is John, for example, is drafted. And that point when they would draft you, they Shanghai you, put you on a British Navy ship. His father could have intervened, decides, hey, this will be good. The interesting thing is father and son are two of a kind. They're both slavers. The son has issues with his father, but he actually wants to get into the family business. And he's captured. He finds himself in Africa. The capture of a local princess.
Well, he's turned into a slave by the local princess.
Except that he knows how to run a slaving business, so he basically takes over her business for her.
But he's also branded. And so he knows what that experience is.
And he doesn't care.
And he lives very high on the hog until
his father comes to rescue him. And after the rescue, between what happens with his father and what happens with Thomas, he has his revelation. Too little, too late.
Well, my niece didn't stay around for that part, and I feel very bad because I bought her that ticket, but I used my other ticket for a friend and bought my niece a ticket. And she said, Aunt Leslie, I'm out of school and I don't need a history lesson. And I thought, that was harsh, but that was exactly what she said.
That was what your niece said.
And it was, it's a thumbnail, unfortunately, a thumbnail critique of the show. It is a history lesson set to music. There are so many others that are so brilliant.
Yes.
I mean, 1776 in Hamilton, just two of them on the American side. And there was a movie version of the British side of the abolitionist movement, which came about before ours did, and was a model for ours. And there is the fellow whose name I cannot remember.
Right. So other people have done it better.
Well,
so
I was just going to say that the old, grizzled Newton was being played by, now you got me off track. No, never mind. In the movie, never mind.
Okay.
I'll come to it.
But we're not talking about the movie.
No, we're not, but I just want to make a point that
So I'm gathering that you share your niece's opinion. Of course, you're a professional, so you stayed till the bitter end.
I stayed, and I thought, oh, I've seen it done better, but the music was, the singing was great. All three of them, Hewitt as well. The guy playing Chuck Cooper, everybody has a great voice.
I have no problem with the performances. I just have a problem with the characters.
What they have to perform. Yes. You know. And I agree with you. And it's a sad thing. We can let our viewers see for themselves. You know.
How to be truly alive, I need to sail where the strongest survive, and find my way through the wind and the spray to a life I've never known, a destiny that I can call my own. I know in my soul it was not in me to change, but God in His mercy has called me by name, and He lifted me out of the pit of my shame and ordained I should
So your conclusion?
It's still running. My conclusion is a bit of a surprise because some other shows that we liked perhaps better are not, and I find that interesting. I think it probably draws in a Christian audience, very interested in seeing an uplifting.
Those who didn't want to see Hand to God.
I was going to say an uplifting play while they're here in town. This would be the one to go see, and obviously there's enough of an audience out there to keep it going.
I would say if you want uplifting, there are better choices.
Well, Hand to God is uplifting in a very different way, but yes.
I would not have called Hand to God uplifting, but that's for another discussion.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
So we move to
Cymbeline. This is the second offering of Shakespeare in the Park at the Delacorte Theater. And, you don't see Cymbeline too often.
No, you don't.
And there is a reason. This is what is called, this is a Shakespeare mashup. So let's look at a few things. Well, it is.
It's a Shakespeare problem play. It's one of the later problem plays.
Sleeping Drought that makes people think you're dead from Romeo and Juliet, check. Parents do not approve of children's romance, also Romeo and Juliet, or any number of Shakespearean plays, check. Young men separated by parents as children reunited at the end of the play, I think that's Comedy of Errors, check. Cross-dressing by Lily Rabe.
As many plays as you can think of, starting with Merchant of Venice.
Well,
with Lily Rabe.
which she was so fabulous in. Check. Woman falsely accused of being unfaithful.
Oh, God.
Much Ado About Nothing. Othello. So you can even have a comedy or a drama with the version of that one. Meaningful piece of jewelry, which adds to plot device.
Again, 12th
check.
Night. Yes, okay.
So, well, also Much Ado. All's Well That Ends Well.
Right.
Did I miss anything? I don't think so.
I don't know, but I was thinking of it a different way because you went through that one, and I was thinking of what Polonius says to the players. He says, tragical comedy, historical pastoral, pastoral comical, historical pastoral, tragical historical, tragical comical, historical, and I think you kind of cover it that way too. I think he's just rummaging through a trunk and picking up scraps and pieces of what's up? And we have contemporary playwrights who do the same.
Yes.
I mean, Neil Simon in his later days, not that Neil Simon is Shakespeare, but he was of the people of the time. He was, because he would write a play overnight and it'd be a big hit, you know, and they both fell on harder times with their later plays, as have Sam Shepard, as have O'Neill. It's a thing. Tennessee Williams, we cannibalize our playwrights, and so if they can't have it, what was your last hit is the way that goes. And this wasn't Shakespeare's last hit by any stretch.
But this is a good production. Why is it a good production? Because it's got this fabulous cast. It brings us back Lily Rabe and Hamish Linklater.
Together.
Who, they were there last year in Much Ado About
the year before.
Were they both there?
No,
someone should buy them a trailer and just let them spend their summers in the park.
Well, basically that's what they're doing. Not always together.
She is Imogene, daughter of King Cymbeline. She wants to marry one of the characters played by Hamish Linklater, this very noble posthumous, and her father wants her to marry her stepbrother.
Her stepmother wants her to marry her son. Right?
But she's got a
and the stepmother is like the Wicked Witch of the North. She's constant and beautifully played, by the way, by
Kate Burton.
Kate Burton.
But I liked her much better later in the play where she plays
an old man.
Well, she plays an old man who kidnapped the king's sons when he was banished from the kingdom.
AKA Imogen's brothers that she doesn't even know
I love Lily Rabe in this show. I mean, she just...
She did a fantastic.
I enjoyed her so much that I almost don't feel for that I watched her TV show.
Oh, I have, once or twice. It's not something that caught me, but I have watched it once or twice.
And Hamish Linklater, who's having such a wonderful time playing the clottish plot. You could just see how much he plays
well, that's
the
his favorite kind of thing to do, and sometimes he just does it too much. But he's very noble.
He overplays it.
And then my favorite character, I'm sorry, has to be Raul Esparza, who comes in as doing one of these things as the Rat Pack version of Sinatra.
Well, that's another thing I love about this play. They get the music right. You know, normally when they do the poems, especially when they set them to music, it tends to be very boring. Here, they've reached back. He's reached back to the '60s. So you have Raul Esparza, who's the villain, one of the villains of the play, doing a '60s Rat Pack, Vegas circa '60. When you have Clotton doing a romantic number, he could be from a British boys band or even from the Monkees.
The wig is from the Monkees, but
there's country western. There's folk. There's even a smattering of Bob Fosse dancing circa Sweet Charity. So that part.
Well, the dance at the end is the most. The dance at the end, which is by Dan Sullivan, who's the director. Dan Sullivan's wife, Mimi Letterman, is it?
Dan Sullivan has directed this.
Yes, and his wife is the choreographer, and her name is, I just want to make sure I get it right, Mimi, I'm not getting it right, Mimi, I can't find it. Mimi Letter, I added a man to it. Who also did the dances for him when he did that incredible Comedy of Errors, and they were all... These dances are very based on some real British moves. I know they came out as looking, but they're actually based on, I've seen Royal Shakespeare numbers that are done where they're absolutely to the point, and this is much more than anything else in the play, I would think.
Right.
And again, the characters wander around, and we could show you a little bit of this while we're talking, I'm sure. Well, the characters wander around, they play many parts. There are two, interestingly enough, there are two...
Almost everybody plays multiple parts, except for, Lily Rabe does not.
She plays a waitress, a waiter.
Oh, she does?
She plays a waiter in a bad wig, and you could see her blonde hair, and it almost came off when we were sitting there together. But that's the only extra part that she gets. And she does, of course, she plays her own. She gets to put on men's clothing, and she plays. So she does play two parts, even though she's still Imogen.
Well.
But she's got another name. Yeah, well, she's playing another part. She loves to play men's parts. I read an article in the Times about the two of them, and she just loved doing that in Merchant of Venice as well. So,
she did it beautifully there. She does it beautifully here.
Well, I think she does
So look, this is no Merchant of Venice. It's no Comedy of Errors, but it's fun.
It was fun.
I also have to mention, I think it was Patrick Page as in the title role.
Yes.
Because Patrick Stewart was obviously not available.
It has to be played by somebody named Patrick?
Well, he basically did a very good Patrick Stewart imitation.
This is a 3-hour knockabout. Whatever. It's not a farce. It's not a straight play. It's a combination of both.
It's a mashup.
So it's a mashup. Now, I have to tell you that George Bernard Shaw, I read this, didn't care for it either, and he called it a vulgar,
Does that
foolish,
mean you didn't think of it?
No, you didn't let me finish.
Okay.
It has a ring to it. A vulgar, foolish, offensive, indecent, and exasperating beyond all tolerance And it's 3 hours, and that's maybe why. But anyway, it's still running through August 23rd. I think this show will be on before that. So
yes, it will be.
It's one of those free plays in the park.
Yes, it's
and
free.
We all had a good time.
And it's worth every penny, and then some. Certainly, certainly much better than their earlier production this year. And just a lot
I would
of
agree
fun.
with you on that.
All right, well, moving not too far from the park, go down about 20 blocks and a few blocks west, and you find yourself at Lincoln Center.
And Charlie and I are going to do upstairs, downstairs at Lincoln Center for you right now, because we each saw a play separately, and we didn't see them together, and we didn't. The other person did not see the other play.
Right, we got lost, basically.
Okay,
so where
that's
are we
one way
going?
of putting
You
it.
went one way, I went the other.
Yeah, I went upstairs, he went downstairs, and we never saw each other.
Yes.
So I'm going to do a fantastic piece by Dave Malloy, who did Natasha and Pierre and the Great Comet, based on War and Peace. And he now has taken on an absolutely true incident in the life of Sergei Rachmaninoff in a play called Preludes, also directed by the same director as before.
Is this a musical?
Rachel Chaikin, and it's a musical with contemporary...
About how a composer wrote some of his songs.
Exactly.
Where have I heard that one before?
The difference here is, of course, that the contemporary music that Dave has written is all rocky, poppy kind of music, and at the same time, the musical director of the show, Rocky Poppy, at the same time, and I use the word rocky for a reason, because it's Rachmaninoff in 2 parts. It's a rock musical, and Rachmaninoff has 2 personas. One is rock, R-A-C-H, pronounced rock, played by Gabriel Ebert, who won his Tony in Matilda, as the father, and some other characters. And then there's the character of Rachmaninoff himself, who is at the piano, played by Ora Matthias, who is the musical director of the whole show. And it's a very small cast. Most everyone plays one character, and they are real characters, all of them. And most of them were really in Rachmaninoff's life, but not necessarily the way this Fantasia brings them in. So what you have is you have Rachmaninoff being visited by Chaliapin, Fyodor Chaliapin, the great Russian basso. It was my uncle, my father's brother's, my uncle, his favorite Russian singer was Chaliapin, and we have records of his. I have records of his. And he was played by this brand new person called Joseph Keckler. I've never heard of him. Has a basso down here, just wonderful. The 2 people that we know very well, Isa Davis and Nikki M. James, both of Isa won her Tony for another show, but we saw her in Strange Passage. And Nikki M. James we saw in Book of Mormon. She was the little African princess, or African child, whatever. And Chris Sarandon plays all the rest of the characters, all the older characters. They're grayish, and they include Tchaikovsky, and they include Chekhov, and they include Tolstoy, all of whom, in his lifetime from 1873 to 1943, Rachmaninoff knew. So have I gotten that all straight now? So there's Rachmaninoff and rock, occupying the same stage. And what Dave Malloy has done is to make the psychiatrist, who was a man, his name was Nikolai Dahl, into a woman named Nicola Dahl, and she becomes a psychiatrist. And this all took place.
Wait, how does the psychiatrist fit in here?
He has a musical block.
Okay.
And so this is really a Fantasia. Sorry, this is really a Fantasia that takes place in his mind of things that did and didn't happen, and it's all mashed. You want to talk about a mashup? Everybody's mashed together. He really did visit Tolstoy. He probably didn't know Chekhov because it's a different time period. He did study. He started out sounding like Tchaikovsky, and he ended up doing movie music and died in Beverly Hills. So he had an incredible life, and this is just that one little episode.
Kind of bridged the classical and the modern, so to speak.
Well, they used one of his fantastic preludes as the theme song in some movie. I mean, where they put lyrics to it and put it in the movie, possibly after he died, I think, but nonetheless. But anyway, it was phenomenal. They were phenomenal. Everybody was just brilliant.
We have some scenes.
We do?
So let's take a look.
You won't really get the whole flavor, but you'll get a taste.
All right, so let's get a taste of Prelude.
Yodelay, he-do, yodelay, he-do, yodelay, he-do, he-day, yodelay, he-do, he-day.
Fantastic spiraling black void. Isn't it pathetic? Isn't it a choice?
pocket, barley beer in a bag, smoking my cigarillos, riding on a silver stag. I'm running down the street with my shirt untucked, running down the street on just one show.
You're not smart enough, you're not funny enough, you're not deep enough. The best years of your life are behind you. It's all downhill now, so sad, so sad.
So the thing we forgot to do tonight was to give playbills. It did completely. So I would give this 4.75 playbills. I had such a good time. We can go back and give the other shows playbills if you want to, but in any case.
Well, we'll do that toward the end of
Okay.
the show.
And you saw?
Well, I was, after very carefully making sure that my cell phone was secure.
Because
I went to see shows for days, which will probably be remembered for Patti LuPone grabbing an audience member's cell phone. Now, most shows, they will make an announcement, and they will have maybe a small slip of paper. Here they give you an entire 8.5 by 11. All right. No ringing cell phones, no texting, no checking emails, no photos, no kidding. You better believe it. I was waiting when they made in addition they have an announcement, I was waiting for them to say, or else.
But I'm concerned. Wasn't there a show as well as the announcement, or was that the best part of the evening?
Oh, right. Okay. Yes,
dear.
there was a show.
Oh,
Now
dear.
I have to say, no. It was not the best part of the evening,
Okay.
but I have to say, Patti LuPone's character didn't have to step too far out of character when she did this. Now this is by Douglas Carter Beam, who gave us The Nance and Little Dog Laughed. Also, the wonderful librettos from musicals such as Xanadu, Sister Act, and this season ago, Rodgers and
Cinderella,
Hammerstein's
yeah.
Cinderella. Beautiful. This is a memory play. He's quite open. His alter ego is named Carr, and it takes place. And while he steps out and says at the end of the play, his alter ego, this isn't really what happened. He then goes and mentions the actual names of the people who the characters are based on.
Anybody we know, or just nobody we ever heard of?
This takes place in Pennsylvania. 14-year-old Carr,
Played by?
Played by Michael Urie.
Who I love.
Yes.
Just love.
And you would have liked him in this. Stumbles across this theater company in a building that's about to be demolished, becomes intrigued, and writes his first play for this company, becomes a part of it. And it's also the story of his introduction into his homosexuality. So what you have is LuPone plays she's the co-director. And then you have she is fabulous in this play. And you see the company as they attempt to break out of their little niche and their down and dirty thing and become mainstream and one of the top companies in the city, which they do by sheer determination, breakout production, and a lot of blackmail.
I was going to say, if only those two other things worked, but they don't. Yes, the blackmail is.
And here is where we get to the problem of the play. Watching the story of the theater company, watching Cars get into it is wonderful. But as I said, it's also his introduction into homosexuality. He has an affair with an older man, and I'm thinking this leads to this prolonged crying scene with Michael Urie, which. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be funny or tragic because they break up, but it gets a little grating after a while. But here's the thing: he's 14 years old. He wants to move to New York with the guy, and I'm thinking, well, what if this had been a 14-year-old girl? I think it's called statutory rape.
Yeah, I think so. I
And
think
of
it
course,
was with a girl or a boy.
And so there's a certain ew factor here. Plus the fact that this takes place in 1973, where the whole where there's certainly different
not
attitude.
gay out as much as.
And there's a certain false note here. And there's a second false note when the company has reached to great heights. LuPone's character thinks they've lost their edge. and what she does to bring it back to its down and
Which
duty
we won't
work,
tell.
which I will not tell, but again, that's the evening's second false note, and it just, and the consequences just didn't seem right.
I'm
at
really
least
sorry that I
not
missed this.
to me. I am too. I really would have liked your opinion on this. You do have a very good cast here. You have Michael Urie as Beam's alter ego. Jerry Zachs directed it. Again, it's LuPone and Dale Souls who really
It's one of the few
carry the show together.
That's one of the few Patti LuPone things I've missed.
They are so beautifully paired on this, and LuPone has the best line in the play, I think. If you're Jewish and in the theater, you're automatically a New Yorker.
Oh.
You have one good story, one iffy story, and a bit of a screwed up ending.
So where would you put it?
I would give it 3 playbills.
Oh, okay. Then I'm not sorry I missed it. I'm always sorry when I miss anything.
I think
though,
something
you know.
like this,
Yeah.
I would have liked to see. Now we have to go back because we did not award playbills to our earlier shows.
So back to Amazing
so
Grace.
let's
oh,
go.
Well, that's sad.
Just to recoup Amazing Grace, neither of us felt very strongly about
No.
the show, mainly because there's really no one to root for except for the girlfriend, and that's
So
just not enough.
That's not the only reason I didn't like it. that was the least of my not liking its parts.
Okay.
I just found it boring. I would give it 2.
I might stretch 2.5, but you're about right. Cymbeline.
Cymbeline.
Wonderful performances.
Yeah, I would give it a. You know, it's 3 hours in the park on hard to sit on. Even though I bring my own pillows, I would give it.
I have to start doing that.
3.5.
I concur.
Okay.
All right.
I have a bag I keep the pillows in, Charlie. I use them once or twice a year in the summer. That's all. 2 perfect pillows for the chairs there. Have to think
Okay.
about doing that. Keep them by the door.
I think maybe next year I'll
And before
I'll think
that,
about that too.
when
Yes.
you go to the theater,
Well, when you go to the theater, look for us two with our pillows
on the aisle.
on the aisle.